Hello, New York City, New York State, and I mean New York City, New York State, and United States. And then with us, valuing the rest of the species, nature, or volume with a care as prayer of a use as per science towards correlation, which is a trinity nature. Now, say I am an expert on the nature of English grammar. I am not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police force. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a judge. Not a military. I'm going to show you intersciences, how we're going to show you how knowledge, because I'm going to give you in my coming up video, but I want you to understand this first. I'm going to do a real fast summary, the best summary of the Old Testament, of the Bible. And no, I forgot. So the important thing to understand, each of the sciences, the knowledge of it, is with a perfect world, not by accident, valued, forsaken. And this is not debatable, but with lies or physical delusions and criminally foreign influences. See, but we have that force because of victim predators per a racketeering method that you have to have forgiveness to allow someone to have fact treatment nature quality. For example, with what they call hate speech. This guy's a hate speech, but then they take what the people say and they move it into a different context. All because it's hateful. No, because these are styles of liars originally and still everyone, especially formally, informally, all juxtaposed. Overt criminal enterprises, private ones, self-value. And with the Forsaken, science reveals instantly that pseudoscience has been self-valuing infrastructure and a pathology of means to afford it individually grouped and together that is criminally foreign influenced. And that was a fact treatment nature invested to what they call practical, which is as criminal insidious nature. And they say that's legalized. But when they're saying that's legalized, their premise treatments are criminally foreign influence delusions wrought. The reason we have poverty is because the sciences individually grouped and together are maintained from off the value of education's grounded relationship to our quality of fact treatment nature, on off campuses in layers, locked, invested, self valuing roles with self valued, juxtaposed crime acts with databases in vertical and horizontal database racketeering method that little rap guy and friends is about countering. For example, with the counter extortion of New York City, of Hartford, and the neighboring suburbs and nations. And so, just to liberate the species' natural volume, because we have a pathology of infrastructure. If you really use science, that is zoning laws, self-valued, evolved with the criminal foreign influences of everyone around our founders and the torture of our founders and the fact treatment nature slavery of them. For example, regarding them, each position of the human fact treatment nature, I'm not completely comparison game. I'm aware, and I'm trying to say this is how to bring reliefs with proper science. And so, but again, with this is about how we have knowledge, science. Oh, yeah, but this perfect where they're making convictions about life, for example. Again, with life, long inherent freedom's energy. See, now subconsciousness, for example, there are proofs that many nations, to get not only just proofs recorded, many nations use the word subconsciousness criminally, with racketeering roles shared there and here, private, off the ground of education, on off it in layers already at the same time simultaneously. This is on off all database relationships, private, other, off the records, military. This is originally and still a racketeering method that came from semi-ancient times, made all victims and made them rely upon tactically criminally re-engineered sciences, and roles forced to value that, then parted specifically, consciously, methodically, to keep perpetually worse and obfuscated the simultaneous nature that is the guide as the identity the sciences share. All things, boxings, prepare. Campus Marcius calls you home to train. Some bring the name. So, if one person of New York City, especially, or anyone who will represent them, I understand we're going to do this. We can do this. Where this is pantheism, the species owns this deeper than when, while as the value of faith. Faith is only to understand a message that had to come through campuses, human fact treatment nature already in this. Entertaining pseudo positive criminal insidious nature, they say, is legalized. And they blame the causes of it on other things other than themselves. The causes of the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. The continued loss of native value pure vaccines. So that would reveal the ancient republic. They could not speak about this as science since some ancient times and defend what they called science. They can defend their logic's course is this: sequence true, the value of that, simultaneously with and as the value of the order to the finite, simultaneously with and as the value to the order the active, simultaneously with and as the value to the order that is progressive value, where our quality of diffusion constantly already as a nature of volume as identity making more and more of itself per its value nature system with positive, however. Two, real, this is a sequence true is one semi-nature of positive. That's not debatable, but with lies or physical delusions and criminally foreign influence, fact-cheating nature and mass scale self-value. So now one person's talking and they're shutting everyone up, which it's all right in social context, but not if the person needs to report things and they're not following mandated law and they're pretending that the reading of the law means other than it does. Criminally knowing just because people didn't read the law exactly what it says, they're sequence shifting, putting fake recorded things into databases. These are a whole bunch of nations sick together with psychology. And then they believe they have stability for bombs. The counters to that are with a whole bunch of private originally still. You can't value that and defend ourselves at the same time. I just remind. So all over the news, Fox News, CNN, they're talking they've been talking about this stream of people desperate, not by action. This adapts through since before our founders were born. Native Americans were already divided by this, already unrealizing, blaming the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts like predicate acts, natures like criminal insidious natures, wrongdoers, negative value nature progressions, blaming the cause of other things other than themselves for all kind of reasons. Time. Oh, it's the white guy. It's the white man. Oh, it's England. See, there's an identity racketeering method here because England was distorted there. Because if England didn't told about how they shared policing with other nations, they will get hurt all kind of ways. Each position of the human fact treatment nature was made to self-value. Roles with what the simultaneous nature. This is a simultaneous nature demonstrating that each individual, each group, and the species nature of volume is value to the identity of value progression that generates more and more temporary / lasting space nature. per the way it self generates, per the way it is two natures, per it is the way that it is semi nature two ways, distinctly and non distinctly, as the semi nature that is making a little bit more and a little bit more of itself as the value of the Trinity. For example, not everyone's the value of the Trinity. This is not just the, and saying we have the Old Testament, we have the Quran. They knew they were going to be handing these books off to people that only were allowed to come through and read books on their own or whatever, that were shaped by and as roles with convictions, quality of fact, treatment nature, styles, premise treatments, sequence treatments, identity treatments that would only be capable of blaming the real, capable of and needing to and longing to, and even for how we're in a value nature system of it. There's no practical. There's nothing was independent here. This is one shared. I see the suits and ties. This is one shared identity of negative value nature progression. A guy with a suit and tie and a nuclear weapon, and both sides, they're fake sides. They have conspiracy theory. You know what Big Rush is? How many Russians they get over on with psychologists? How many psychologists they have? They make that minority a majority. How many nations? This is fluent through our nations. You can't see the physical delusions, criminal foreign influence, fact treatment nature of this and uses of it. Albert Einstein. English is about the identity that is bigger than math. It is about the identity that generated math, temporary / lasting space nature, A through Z. And see, when we're not this complete, we're not the it system, which is about what is complete or semi, and as what is simultaneous, constantly. So it's invisible, but still discernible. And as all parts of English are in relationship to it, inherently, actively, and progressively. And with sequence before and after that as value simultaneously, to and as their immediate value. The Trinity and the five pillars of Islam and these religious books are not let free speech for the and value, proper valuing of the first parts of themselves. They, for example, put the New Testament to build everyone propagated. See, this is these religions are about law, and we have law with a whole bunch of nations involved with racketeering as their jobs, as they're told to do it. Especially with psychology, fluent through everything. Everyone, the minority, criminally foreign influenced. And, these are intercultural originally and still. Religion, Phil, species. It's got nothing to do with it. With that. They need to. They need things. They need each age of fact treatment nature for the racketeering method with human fact treatment nature and logic scores actual, and their roles with identity racketeering. By now, it's already recorded. We have physical delusions, criminally foreign influence, fact treatment nature uses of the sensibilities of countless people when they make treatments about the 13 stars. What is recorded that our founders didn't have free speech, because what is recorded was a racketeering method that had laws that controlled speech, not just controlled speech through in layers. You have to pretend this is positive, where it's not positive, and layers short. In other words, so many layers built to have everyone perpetually already had blamed, even the Native Americans before our founders were born. This was already entrenched here, having everyone blame other things other than themselves, including having England blame itself because of the way England was extorted. This is how the identities of nations, of area states, areas, states, and nations, how they're maintained criminally foreign influence. This is fluent through our nation's fake sides. The actual recorded motivations from a minority of Russians involved with a minority former director of FBI, Robert Luskin, down. all gather around. A whole bunch of people tied to him with uses of CCSU for racketeering leading up to and in the Trade Center attack context, uses of other campuses, Trinity College, uses of campuses I didn't even go to for this, like Wesleyan, uses of river, all geographical differences, uses of all along routes on off the state judicial branch offices, on off the state prison offices, with people involved with racketeering, again with database racketeering, and then with roles acting tied to that, pretending passions and emotions, valuing sequence racketeering roles with whole ages, valuing roles with a whole bunch of crime methods bonded with this, like the people with DACA. This kid's gonna walk through here. These are people involved with the. This is what's really furthering the criminal enterprises. The and where they're sharing this with psychology. For example, most sickly is right with triages because they're pretending it's about mental health, but they're exploiting an anomaly where they're just attaching people to fake uses of drugs, fake relationships to others, fake words. Now, these are people involved with crimes with their patients and criminals, forging names, faking whole detailed conversations. Former director of the FBI down involved with the racketeering uses of a Leahy family and of nurses connected to my area, foreign and domestic, of military and of Navy, foreign and domestic, connected to my area with racketeering with child offenders further tied to a principal child offenders campus. Then and now, with more right now, all tied to the houses in my area with roles with it. But this is fact cheating nature racketeering. This is where they're preventing me have a voice, and they keep sticking fake things in conversations and to things tied to them already having attached me to fake locations, little kids to fake locations. WFSB attached me to fake locations with the state, with a whole bunch of state police forms, families, and other Weathersfield police, their family members, their kids involved with racketeering with child offenders because they need to hide life progressions. They're using the insights that they have on each age of fact treatment nature and their stages of development already long progressed in a racketeering method role, fake sides. You see how all the different identities of our bodies share one? This is in demonstration of the criticalness of this, how critical this is. Vaccines. I'm not a doctor. I'll delineate their delusions from their criminal foreign influences here for you. We don't have free speech. We don't have freedom of religion. We have still intercultural racketeering because they're caring about jobs and titles and their notions of logic with physical delusions, with criminally foreign influence, natures, needs, and souls. You see the what those, well, those are criminals. That's only like where they have shootings in areas all the time. Those are intercampuses, again, off the ground of education's value, native pure, no matter who you are. Not just because of the sequence. See, and this again is the method that made nations A through Z already. And then they lost finally. I mean, they never lost. Thank God. The Native Americans. Any value we have was earned by them. And no, it's earned by everyone. Because that's what it is actually. And anything else is not going to be able to stay science. And this is science. This is what I'm trying to tell you, New York. This is all we have to do. Admit what is actually practical, which that people stacking is recorded actually, actual valid science involved with a pathology of infrastructure that was designed to keep each individual grouped and all together, not being able to afford anything but what is only capable of causing negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. And everyone's already invested to blaming the causes of that and other things other than themselves. As so, and like money. I'll just name that's not science. That's knowledge as science, all abridged. So what's that mean? Their roles with the Constitution abridged. Vaccines. So I tell you things. They have physical delusions with their takes on Albert Einstein, with their takes on value treatment, on algorithms, because they're victims. Though I'm not telling you to get mad. In other words, but we need to counter what they're pretending passions and emotions with, and they're getting away with it because they're relying upon the vertical and horizontal database racketeering, like Facebook, with the people associated with them. And now these and again, former director of the FBI down right through administrations. CNN, these are CNN sources recorded and confessed and demonstrated they're using the names Robert Mueller and a Comey guy, real or made up directors of the FBI. They're using him to hide their racketeering, which sequence shifts reveal, and which their roles with database racketeering at Central Connecticut State University was also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated through time, involved with the principal sex offenders campus, with other natures of racketeering with kids. And they have that tied through time to how they use on and off the state, on and off the everything, but on and off the middle school further, with houses in a church right next to it, and other private schools tied to this. And these are other intercities public schools too, involved with the same racketeering minority. There's the whole bunch of people tied to a white family. I don't know. He's tied to a Jennifer Socia, and people associated with a Spada family that are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering with the Della Fair family and with other boyfriends they had. And then they make confessions to people that out of nowhere, they seek people out to make confessions per a racketeering method. Again, the Old Testament, we're going to look at it a different way because everyone's looking at it out of sequence because they're fake positive. They have to type of notions of positive. Positive is, again, a science that is sequence true. We don't have that as American history defended. Is the order to the finite true? We don't have that defended as the Constitution, in other words. We don't have the order of the active defended. We have offensive sequence racketeering rules and uses of that. They're also using, for example, everyone misses it, no one fathomed it. What do they need to do when you're pseudo education and worse, abuses of each age of fact treatment nature intercampuses? They don't, no one realizes though what's being stacked in databases, what's being told tied to that, because we already have all private and all interbranch and all intercampuses and all private database and all database relationships involved with overt criminal enterprises and with private ones as what originally bonded them and keeps them, needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite lies, active lies, progressive lies, and identity racketeering lies, like a whole bunch of people with the name Joey Quest, a whole bunch of people named with the name Fred Grouzet, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with interstates. Now, this is Boston FBI, CIA. People like also with a Scalora family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering, leading and worse than war crimes, leading up to and in the Trade Center attack context, with the uses of CCSU, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated uses of Saudis and of Kuwaitis and of deans' families and of themselves, those deans themselves, for like forging names, switching names, uses of statutes where they pretend they have the right to hide things and the right to lie where they don't. And because they're also hiding how this is fluent through our nations, a racketeering method in their self-valued roles. Now, so they need Kaepernick pretending to be against keeping the little kids blaming other things other than themselves for how no science spoke for them, how no one cared. That's intercultural racketeering people with psychology. Their delusions raw. Now these are various natures of judges, also delusions raw, criminally foreign influence, forging names, switching names, with racketeering with former director of the FBI, racketeering with election spots, with houses in my area, with the police forms, with their extended family members, with their roles with human trafficking, attaching little kids to fake locations, their family members to fake locations simultaneously, fake words, fake relationships to others, fake natures of relationships to others, uses of Facebook for sexual, medical, and interbranch racketeering against little kids, just because they have kids with there too. They're all kind of fake conversations with me. They don't let you speak when you go into court. They've been using that with the courts with racketeering with that's intercities, maintained worse than interstates, needing to hide life progressions from whoever becomes presidents, needing them to value roles with them, needing to hide it too. Fake sides. What exploits that? So Russians are also involved racketeering with them. Again, Russians against Russians, ours against our own. Again, they're involved. They're all kind of ways recorded delusions, rot, forging names, switching names, roles, racketeering with drugs, uses of it, motivations for roles of it. Everyone miss because they're using for the identity racketeering method, like the identity of the Constitution, like the identity of logic, which is a simultaneous nature again in self-generation per actual science. But that's they want to debate overall. That's just why this is involved with how and why the predicate act in relationship to the discernment of criminal insidiousness nature. Like someone who commits a predicate act or who covers it up is a criminal insidiousness nature. Per me, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a police form. They're recorded delusions raw. Again, originally still when it comes to color. There's nothing. There's no. There, it's not there's there's no excuse for it. I'm not trying to say I'm not, of course there's no excuse. What I'm saying to say there's no simultaneous. This is our science. No science spoke for these areas. That's why there's no evolution. They need there and here to blame such things. They need to have fake scientists. So they're all going to say, oh, well, those people are mentally, you know, we have people delusions, well, not because they memorize some psycho theories that they use for racketeering. They are good grade, so they think they're smarter than someone. And we see how we have, which that would be debatable if they weren't involved with sequence racketeering and physical delusions recorded and identity thefts against people. I don't know. This is shared policing. There's a Mogman family, I believe is his name too. I don't know her name. There are people, men and women of different grades that are involved with this racketeering method. Now, it's going to hurt kids who are individual. If you have a brother or sister or a dependent, they're going to adapt. This is a method that is consciously recorded consciously keeping each age of fact treatment nature self-valued hurt. And it's maintaining that hurt to keep specifically per a method that keeps correlation nature's trinity valued obfuscated. Because all our answers are right here, simple, right now. Instant means to evolution, reliefs. New York City, Hartford, Connecticut. Please, no, in other words, please, someone respond. Someone that's not going to, not, in other words, we have, I caught them. Interbranch. You can't just call up the police. They'll lie about what's recorded here. There's a whole bunch of nations they are already involved with racketeering. Like, for example, with DACA, but it was since before that. Plus, what we could do, this is what we do. We agree as nations to embrace the streams of desperate people, and we claim the standards that are already below. It's not science, and it's exploited breaching racketeering tool. These are tortured people. And the Constitution says no torture specifically regarding this racketeering method that we're not being allowed to talk about because our founders didn't have free speech and they wanted us to demonstrate that. So in other words, there are a whole bunch of foreign and domestic who use each identity of their ground location currently through time, originally and still. They use each age of fact treating nature with the effects nature where everyone speaks through others. And that's used to maintain people involved with racketeering with evidences. with mail crime rules, wire crime rules. Even if they don't understand the extent of it. In other words, they've been making opinions about others, speaking through others criminally. And you're not supposed to do that. And they've been just attaching people to fake locations, fake nature's relationships to themselves, lying, holding back little insidious things because of how they're kept on off campuses, even medical campuses, even fire campuses, including in the training of them before they're there, especially with probate courts. I don't know the name of the judge related to a Del Fair family, but with a probate court. Also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with a whole bunch of natures of racketeering with a house slash S in my area. People that were my age involved with this. He's also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with the confessions made to me by the Spada family, a whole bunch of sisters and brother and people intercities like next involved with a whole bunch of people on off Two Rod Highway, also involved with racketeering with co-defendants, a former director of the FBI in a 2006 case. Leading up to that and leading up to the Trade Center attack, involved racketeering with them, again with databases and with on off campuses and with the houses in my area. And now they also, that doesn't mean that anywhere, anytime they tried to pretend I know them in my area, it was never like they say. And then in other words, they have rules with houses in the area also involved with the racketeering interbranch area, intermilitary foreign, the military, foreign and domestic military. A whole bunch of, all throughout the species, these are sick here together. Criminal justice, psychology, their theories. So vaccines, it tells us things. So thank you everybody for coming out tonight, and I want to wish everybody happy 4th of July. A free, in other words, but the only way to, by not happy, don't be happy if you're going to be content to pretend we're free, liberated yet. We will not be liberated here or anywhere. Won't be liberated if we're not valuing as identity of the law, as identity of conviction nature's value, even if we're not the law. Sequence true. The order to the finite value true. The order to the active value true. The order to the progressive value true. The order to the identities value true. Identity is simultaneously a complete nature as an individual, simultaneously a semi-nature, where the value of the group, age, sex, area, nations, states, with the value of the campus, with the value of the progressive is in other words, what was people stacking, like where Jay-Z came from. What was people stacking there is people stacking there. Effectively kept and keeps while it was again, this is a simultaneous nature, the identity of science. So if you say you're free, you have to lie, you have to blame other things other than selves, and you have to lie about the substance of what that is in New York City on the mass scale, all kinds of different, all exceptions too, and inclusion with the same, with and as the same thing. How could someone be that organized to keep that everyone hid by everyone rules hiding against our own? They're exploiting the way the value progression works naturally since semi-ancient times. This is what the devil's about, a racketeering method, an archetypal racketeering method that took over the value of this republic revealed by the species valuing our species' actual course before criminal foreign influences. Note the rest of nature has no criminal foreign influences. That's why we're going to space. Leith of Hadith, our value leaving. We still even liberate ourselves here. All that money. There are farms that are people losing their farms. Every time someone loses a farm, they could have been part of a program where that land could have been used for something else for temporary while we have to adapt. See, each modern nation distinctly and non-distinctly, and together. Together we're all backing up, bang, bang, bang. A racketeering method, self-valued, has us everyone fighting, fighting ourselves, but that where we're liberated to, they have its self value. In other words, we're doing the wrong things in this fight, and when we're not, what's calling itself peace and against fighting is recorded and involved not about peace. They're sick. They need to blame. They pretend they're using a whole bunch of nations were involved with infrastructural and systems racketeering with identities of law, involved again with lie progressions only capable of being from all formal spots, databases, negative value nature progressions, acts and natures. So what are they going to have? They need the kids to be talking about Kaepernick. Oh, it's racist. That's the substance of science. Instead of claiming what is actually science. Our founders didn't have free speech. Instead of understanding the racketeering method, there were databases and there were internation monitored database relationship. In other words, if they talked about if anyone broke the laws about what you could say, everyone was a slave, fact treating nature slave. That's most important. It's also most important, of course, the physical slavery. The worst slavery they did to them was not letting them read and simultaneously making people read sick things, box things. The sciences are ill, knowledge. Correlation nature has means to see through this. We're going to delineate the delusions from the criminal foreign influences of a whole bunch of nations together at once here with uses of roots, with uses of right here where George Washington had to leave physical slavery in Wethersfield, Connecticut, right between Hartford and Boston. I mean, right between New York and Boston, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War, even with the French general's help. And see, that's telling about what really brought us into World War One and how what state we went as. See that what made convictions in the sciences? They're all involved with fact cheating nature racketeering. Again, this is where it counts. So the predicate act is in demonstration of a criminal insidiousness nature, per logic. So and criminal insidiousness associated with organized crime. This is again a racketeering method of the devil. And this is a whole bunch of racketeering methods juxtaposed, motivations, nature's needs, interests. Even legalize it. Again, you can't legalize things like that without it was criminally legalized. How we had slavery criminally legalized and forced self-value was per a racketeering method. And that is what our founders wanted us to talk about every moment until it's done. Boxing is fun because it's a simultaneous nature. You can't say we're free when we have that. You can't afford out of it with everyone playing fact cheating nature racketeering. They need the real cause of negative value nature, aggression, accident, blame other things on others and on selves. They need it blamed on. They need this the flag. They need our founders blamed for slavery. Right through our schools, educational departments are involved with a racketeering method with logic. Where they're lying about family members, attaching little kids to fake locations, where they're getting over with there already been a long time where they've been racketeering in cases into branch, all tied to them private again, like psychology, like prisons, also with psychology, drugging people, originally still creating medical conditions in people. You can't defend that and be about healthcare at the same time. So they want to keep the presidents victim predators because we're not free. Not one could see. There are proofs. There's recorded that Barack Obama did that and how he did not have free speech. For example, relationship to what presidents are only allowed to talk about as individual nations. Oh, this person is responsible for this part of the nuclear weapon, so we have to do this. This person, they're Oz. And they were tricked and hurt and persuaded and came through this education So then everyone's trying to make others what they are more and more, which one, but it's one identity. Russians and Americans are against Americans and they're, you know, how delusions wrought psychology has been, how many natures of racketeering that have been with the branches of government since before our founders' births. That was left that was tied to what they were using Joseph Mengele for. They needed him to get caught to be known like that. Because this is where they're this is a fact cheap nature racketeering. This is logic scores. So we have them using phone racketeering also with medical. Then they hide it because they have on off Yale, on off Trinity College, on off UConn, involved with racketeering. On off CCSU has been racketeering with uses with each of the departments involved with racketeering with a school I went to. I was never sexually abused there, but a principal sex offender is involved with others and with all kinds of abuses then and now of girls. And with the principal sex offenders campus, with people in the school, with the Weathersfield police chief, and tied to his daughter, who was in my grade too, involved with racketeering with the former director of the FBI's co-defendants, and who had a family member of my grade, involved with racketeering with Heather Hansen, people on Church Street recorded, confessed, and demonstrated. Involved also racketeering with judges with real estate companies and with the Dillon family and with a whole bunch of people, Officer Jerry Miller recorded, confessed, and demonstrated he's racketeering roles with a Jerry Kerr and with a Mike Kerr and their kids, and with on off like policing, shared policing of locations, people involved with racketeering with the with mobile gas stations on the South State Highway through time, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved racketeering with military police, with Confederate flag, KKK themed election crimes with criminal uses of CNN. Now, so when they're using, for example, they're using, oh, make your opinions about the stars when the science has the answer what to say, but no one knows it because they came through criminally foreign influence sciences. They're already delusions wrought and a nature of communications. Therefore, valuing how they're preventing mandated law originally still. So they just force people. They're gonna no one can have a social life. No one can interact right if they're not trying to make positive out of negative. See, but now positive out of negative right is being prevented free speech. So people ignore that, and it's worse. Then it's all just how you feel. It's all right to want to make people feel right, but not if you're going to be using it for racketeering originally. Still, right through the administrations, no, we have child offenders. That means we have people, offenders of each age of factory nature. You don't see the elderly homes, how some punk designed that. Not just punk. This is fluent through our nation. Sick. They can't afford it individually, grouped, or together. Anything else, because they can't admit it first. So how could they do it? They can't be led by what is going to cause positive value nature progressions, action natures. So they offensively know that, so they have that pseudo positive. They have people all let's feed the homeless. How many judges are involved with a racket as sick natures? So they pretend they care about because people feed the homeless because they're involved with fake sciences. Each one. That's why there's homelessness. Those aren't means. That's means to keep everyone so they get hurt, whoever is going to have correlation. Because now everyone formal identity law needs to hide from correlation natures, simultaneously inherent, active, and progressive means. And with sequence true, they have to hide from sequence true. They have to value the identity thefts of others. They need to hide the same finite sequence shifts, the same identity racketeering acts and roles and natures against other people. Now, Hartford, Connecticut, we also have a Lena's Pizza recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with racketeering intercities with intertypes of schools, also with private schools. So when we have that, they have the debates about this. This is recorded and involved with a racketeering method that invests everyone, not not just the fake side, but to the illusions of it, and with delusions. And then everyone wants to, so the nature of the communications is people that become ravenous if you try to point that out. Because and what they want to debate though is not even debatable when you which is sequence true, which is what is actually recorded, which shows that we have interbranch actors involved with it, with the judicial department has been criminally foreign influenced, also grouped with the executive branch and hiding their lie progressions intercities by forging names, switching names, attaching people to fake, switching the names of arresting officers, attaching people, kids and their family members to fake locations, fake relationships to other people. Then they start fights between people and they quote that and they leave that, they quote a behavior, but they leave things. This is not just a social conditioning. This is a racket. This is worse than war crimes. These are people involved with going into the Iraq war, criminal uses of Kuwait, criminal uses of Saudi Arabia, fake sides with them. In other words, they have states and areas maintained. Everyone blaming the real cause of other things. In other words, they know it's recorded that our founders didn't have free speech. They know it's recorded that our founders wanted that demonstrated. They know that our founders wanted to demonstrate that they were forced to be theater because everyone was forced to do it on a mass scale. If you didn't entertain that theater, the laws were already too crazy. That's why slavery was left. Our founders wanted the surface of a constitution, the republic, from when it was not criminally foreign influence. That's the sophistication that revealed the republic. There are proofs that the Latin laws are in relationship to how our individual language, English, these 26 sounds have an identity of relationship to themselves, the same way the identities of our bodies do, individually grouped and together. So it has the languages, the sounds are values that are individual. The other languages are value together too, like our species is. So we can see the identity of science, which is a simultaneous nature and not only inseparable from everything, but it won't get less. It will not leak yin yang. It only gets bigger. For example, it will not separate. It can only get bigger. You can isolate part of it, then you're gonna have, for example, two semi-natures on both sides of it. In fact, each identity of value has 2 points of possession on each side of it. And the halo was revealed to teach this by the ancients. Maxine. Okay, thank you for coming out this evening. Happy 4th of July.